I'm going to be in conversation with Tamil and Malayalam writer Jeyamohan, who probably needs no introduction here. He's a remarkable literary figure with a prodigious output, literary output. Can give many examples, but it's like surveying a series of peaks. But there is Venmurasa, which is a 26-volume novel collection that retells the Mahabharata for the modern age. And it's one of the longest novels in the world. I'm delighted to be speaking with Jeyamohan today. Thank you very much for your time, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for everybody coming.
Sir, I would like to start with your novel, The Abyss, which was translated last year. I've felt always that alongside Vishnupuram, it is one of your most personal novels. And one reason I feel that is because a lot of the experiences in that novel comes from your observations in real life, what you saw during your wandering days as a mendicant. There is also an inner resonance, I feel, because the characters in the novel, whether it is Pandaram or whether it is Ramappan or Kuyan or Irukku, they suffer. There is a suffering, but there is also a longing in them to transcend that suffering. And whatever you have written about your wandering days in works like Purappadu, whatever you have spoken about it, it seems like you had a similar tension too. You were wandering, you were suffering because your friend had committed suicide, you had your personal difficulties, but there was also a longing to go somewhere beyond. So that is my first question. How much of a personal novel is The Abyss to you? Is it, how much of your person is there in that novel? And if I may pose it a little more provocatively, is there still a little bit of that beggar in the writer Jeyamohan?
Yeah. Actually, I feel like a mendicant, a traveler, always in my life. I was traveling throughout my life. The only period in which I was not traveling is the COVID period. So every 15 days, I was in a travel, continuously. So I feel like a traveling beggar. That beggar is always inside me. Actually, few years back, I asked my Guru Nitya Chaitanya to give me sannyas. And he said, you are an artist. So sannyas is like it's a entirely different life. He said, you are an artist. An artist is making a soap into a surf. Meditation is like converting this surf into soap, so that you cannot do it. So go and write. It is your mission. It is your way of enlightenment. So I prefer this path of writing. But still I feel I am one of the sannyasis of this land. There are at least few lakhs people traveling throughout India without any resources, any money, begging throughout India. I was a beggar for more than 1 year throughout India. I begged in Kashi, Uttarkashi, Rishikesh, and Palani. So I'm writing that experiences. Apart from this novel, I wrote a lot about sannyasi life. So still I feel as a sannyasi inside me. Maybe in the next birth, I will attain a sannyasi good in the life.
Thank you. We wanted to start on such a serious note, sir, because in The Abyss, what I felt was, you talked about making the soap into a surf. You have your search, your personal search, but it comes out reflected in so many ways in so many different characters. There are men, there are women, there are transgender characters, there are people that we might not even see as people because of the way they look and the way they speak. How do you do this? How do you transform yourself into others?
That's the major question, because I said already that image, making surf as a soap. That means one has to concentrate on himself. He has to concentrate on his personal self, and he has to attain it. That is self-realization. But a writer cannot do it because he is constantly listening others. and he is actually memeing others. He is actually living the lives of others also. While traveling in a train, I used to listen the small houses in the sometimes I wonder that I am living in a house in a second. For a second I am living in a house. I can complete a whole life within a fraction of second. So that's the faculty of a writer. Actually it's a blessing and it's a curse. It's a blessing because he can live a lot of lives in his life. I am not a single person. I lived a lot of lives in this small life. I'm a sannyasi, and I'm a married man. I'm a father. I'm a husband and a traveler, and I have a lot of faces. That's the problem of a writer also, because he cannot concentrate in his personal self, and it naturally blocks the way of self-realization. So he can listen others. He can concentrate in the external world. So my teacher taught me a meditation practice, which is not to close my eyes. I have to open my eyes. I have to look the nature from here to there with a consistent consciousness in my eyes. That's a kind of meditation. Looking outward is a meditation. That's the natural meditation for any writer. So I'm always living others' lives also. That's why I'm a writer. That's why I'm not a spiritual practitioner.
Thank you for that answer. This outwardness that you talk about, when people go on a spiritual path, one of the common criticisms that comes to this sort of seeking is that one is very inward. One only cares about oneself and one does not look outward. But there is an element of including society, looking at society that is part of spiritual growth. And writers, I think, play a major role in connecting the two, because the writer is an inward person as well as an outward person, because they look at society. So I just want to shift gears a little bit and talk about the social and political aspects in some of your novels. The Abyss has portions of that. But there is another novel that is scheduled to come out soon, White Elephant. It's scheduled to come out from Harper next year and from FSG in the US next year. So White Elephant, maybe we can talk a little bit about that novel. It's about so White Elephant is a novel which is about the first labor uprising that happened in India, which happened to be organized by a set of Dalit workers in Madras in the late 1800s. Can you tell us a little bit about the novel and why you got interested in that sort of politics?
There is one interesting short story in Aram collection, I think, in the Stories of the True. It is about 100 armchairs. It is about the life of a Dalit officer who cannot be a bureaucrat in the system, and his struggles and his final self-realization. At that time, one of my close friends approached me, and he introduced himself as a Dalit activist. Later, he became a very close friend of me. His name is Alex. You know him.
Yes.
Alex introduced me to another Dalit scholar. His name was, he was a Dalit scholar in Chennai. And he told me about this particular struggle in Ice House. I think Tirivika referred about this struggle which happened in Ice House, Chennai. Maybe this is the first workers' struggle in India.
This happened in the Ice House.
In the Ice House at Chennai. So it has a clue inside me. And actually I had a visual, just a visual. A lot of Dalit workers are thronged in a place, and the horses are surrounding them. The horsemen I mean, at that time, police and military is the same in Chennai. So the armed forces are surrounding them. So it reminded me a poetry of Shelley, the dance macabre. So there was a connection between me, in between that visual and the dance macabre. That connection made that novel. So I started from that image. A set of poor Dalit people are surrounded by armed horsemen, and something going to happen.
Right.
So I started from the from the pinnacle point of that struggle, and I completed that novel in the backdrop of the great famine of 1987. 1897. It is called that Great Deccan Famine. Nearly 3 crores people died in India, and out of that, nearly 1 crore people died in Chennai, Madras Presidency. So I wrote that novel in that backdrop of the Great Famine.
When I read the novel first, it's called Vellayana in Tamil. When I read the novel first, what really surprised me was one of the first labor movements, the sort of coalition of workers, happened to be a Dalit coalition. So it's almost like when we talk about politics, we say Dalit politics as if it's something removed from the mainstream politics. But really, it is front and
Actually,
center.
I wrote a lot about this. The first thing you have to remember that the first politics in India is Dalit politics. The first political rising in South India and in India is Dalit politics. Because they have a very strong reason to uprise. Still they have that strong reason. And there was a very particular situation at that time. Dalits are oppressed throughout India, but they had a way to go out from that. It is army. They can go to army. Army offered them a lot of jobs because at that time Dalits only can cook beef. So a lot of cooks are needed at that time. So the British offered a lot of jobs to Dalits. So Dalits found some kind of liberation through entry into army. So the persons who entered into army, they came to know about the world. They came to know about the liberal world. So it is they are the persons who got the liberal ideas first in India. Before any educated Indian got that liberal ideas, the Dalits in the army got the liberal ideas. They propagated that idea within their community. And at that time, the second great famine emerged. So they have to fight for their survival. So that's why in the early 80s, I mean, 1850s, 1850s is the starting point of Dalit politics in Tamil Nadu. After 25 years, the Congress politics started in India.
Right.
So they are the early political ideologies in India. So one of them is Ayodhya Pandit,
Who's a character in the novel.
who is one of a character in this novel. So I wrote about that struggle in this novel.
And if I may ask,
On mind, all these ideas are, I have to induct to my friend Mr. Alex. He is no more now. He published this book. The first 2 editions are published by Alex. He is a Dalit activist and a Dalit publisher. He was a very close friend of mine. I still remember his smile while I am sitting here.
one question that comes to me is, in your own personal politics, what role does Dalit politics have to play? Do you get inspiration from the Dalit political struggle as part of your own personal political beliefs?
Even now, I have faith in only one political movement, that is Dalit politics. I personally feel all other kind of politics are power politics and they have nothing more spirituality in it. But I am always very close to Dalit politics. I am always a very express my support to every kind of Dalit politics in Tamil Nadu and India, because Dalits have their own personal reason to revolt and to protest and to do politics. And all other politics in India is just a kind of struggling to get their share in the loot. So I have no respect for any other kind of politics. I'm interested only in two kind of politics. One is the Gandhian micropolitics, and I am a very ardent supporter of that kind of politics, and I have a lot of groups to do that. Continuously I'm in that politics. Actually, I'm directly coming from a activist period, activist field, from that field to this function. And second thing is I'm interested in Dalit politics. And all other politics are there some kind of dramas, political dramas they are doing, and there is nothing for a writer to take interest in it.
Thank you for that. Jay, you say you're not a conventionally religious person. I've never seen you go pray at a temple or do any rituals with a view of any getting anything, that sort of a thing. But you say you're a spiritual person and you're a seeker. This question pertains to a novel of yours called Kumari Thuraivi, which is also scheduled to come out next year from Juggernaut. The novel is about gods and humans. The gods feature in the novel almost as characters. So the novel is about a human king who gives away the goddess Meenakshi of Madurai as his own daughter. He gives her away in marriage to a god. And the novel is about how the lives of the gods and humans intersect. My question to you is, despite not being conventionally religious, how do you write a novel like that? How do you write a novel about a god being your child, the character's child? And what is the relationship to the gods? What is your relationship to the gods in the novel? How would you define religion and spirituality here?
Once my friend Kamal Hassan told that he was an atheist, strong atheist, but while listening Jayadeva Ashtabadi, he used to weep. He can't control. There is something very strange in religion. I'm not a religious person, and practically I'm against religion. I may call myself an atheist, but actually I'm a Vedanti. I believe in Advaita, and I believe no God except myself, Atman. But still, I'm very much interested in art and literature. That's why I'm very much interested in religion. Religion is the source of art, literature, and allegories and symbols. So, I can call it archetypes. It's a grand collection of archetypes. So, for any creative writer, it's a golden mine of archetypes. So archetypal system, that is inspiring to me. I'm not talking about gods. I'm talking about archetypes. Meenakshi is a god, but not a single god. Meenakshi is a archetype called virgin. Virgin, the purity of virginity, a beautiful maid. That's an archetype. That god is still in Kanyakumari. She is a virgin god. And still we have a lot of virgin gods in India, throughout in India, up to Pasupadinath. There are a lot of virgin gods. And it's the major metaphor. I am taking it from the religion. So I'm using religion as a collection of metaphors and archetypes, not as a collection of faiths or rituals. That's the difference.
So that's why the gods populate your novel as archetypes.
That's why I wrote about a novel about Kumari Thuraivi. Right. It's a story of marriages of gods. And I wrote about Mahabharata. Right. I consider Mahabharata as a grand collection of mythologies, archetypes, and converted history. Right. So that's why I'm dealing with it. Right. So I am not a bhakt, but I can easily understand the bhakti. That's it.
Okay, that's a good catchphrase. We spoke today about your personal, political, and your artistic and spiritual sides through this. What do you think unites all of them? The personal search in you, your politics, and your art. What do you think unites all that?
I can't say anything very concrete for this answer, because what is the unifying factor? I may call it as spiritual thing, but spirituality is a very vague terminology. We cannot define it very clearly. It is beyond life. It is beyond mundane life. It is beyond logic. It is beyond any kind of logical explanation. But still, I have a sense of justice. I have a aesthetic sense. And I have a perennial quest for answers of life. All these can be consistent in a word called spirituality. Spirituality is the uniting factor of my politics, my aesthetics, and my writing mission. So I consider writing as a mission. I am not wasting my life for fame or money. I am not wasting my life for recognition or a lot of people's approval. I am doing this for my personal satisfaction, and I may call it as self-realization. So, to me, I once said that what meditation to Buddha is writing to me. So I am doing a kind of meditation through these works. I am reinventing myself, and I am re-narrating myself through my writing. That's why I am using politics and everything to re-narrate that stuff. Because I am living in a political society. That's why I am writing politics. I am living in a society with a lot of past. That's why I am writing a lot about the past of my country and past of my culture. Okay.
Thank you.
So
thank
that's
you.
the answers my spiritual quest.
Thank you. We have 2 more minutes for any audience questions. Please.
நீங்கள் வந்து ரைட் பண்ண புக்ஸில் நிறைய கேரக்டர்ஸ் உருவாக்கியிருக்கீங்க. ஒருவேளை நீங்கள் எப்பயாச்சும் வந்து ஒரு புக்கு படிச்சிங்கன்னா உங்களோட புக்லேயோ இல்லை யாராச்சும் எழுதின புக்லேயோ படிச்சிங்கன்னா எந்த கேரக்டராக மாறுவீங்க?
Well, that's an interesting question. I used to read a lot. Personally, my favorite character is Raskolnikov in Tolstoy's Crime and Punishment, because he is entirely different from me. He is an introvert, he is a confused person, and he commits a murder. So I used to imagine as Raskolnikov, and a person living in a dark, wet, small room, dreaming a murder or something. So it's a way of going out from my own personality. So I like to be a Raskolnikov. Thank you.
வணக்கம் சார். இன்னைக்கு வளர்ந்து வர சமுதாயத்தில் இருக்கிற யங் ரைட்டர்ஸ்க்கு பொலிட்டிக்கல் பற்றி எழுதணும்னு நினைக்கிற ரைட்டர்ஸ், பட் ஆனால் சட்டத்தினால இல்லைனா வந்துட்டு கிரிட்டிசிசம்க்கு பயந்துட்டு இல்லைனா சென்சர்ஷிப்க்கு பயந்துட்டு இருக்கிற ரைட்டர்ஸ்க்கு நீங்கள் கொடுக்க போகிற அட்வைஸ் என்ன சார்?
See, I am not a political person. I committed to anti-politics or anarchy. I advise every writer to be apolitical. But a writer should write about politics in a position of apolitics. Without taking a political stand, you have to write a lot about politics. Then only you are doing justice to your writing. So be bold, that's the only way. So people are dying in many countries for writing. So nobody is going to hang you. And nobody is going to put you in a prison. So very few writers are in prison in India. So we are very free. We are very, very free to write anything here in India. So imagining that we are in a fascist country is a wrong thing. There are a lot of real fascist countries. I know personally some countries where we cannot write a single line without consulting the government. So we have every freedom to write anything here. So our problem is we we take a stand in politics, and we are prisoners of that point of view. We are reiterating that single point of view throughout my writing, our writing, and that makes us writing very, very mean and silly. So I don't have faith in political writing having strong standholds. I am considering a writer, a good writer, naturally be positively anarchist. That's the word, positively anarchist, negatively anarchist. So be a positive anarchist. That's the way to write. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Do we have time for one more question? No. Okay. So thank you very much, sir, for your time. It was a great session.
Thank you for that.